Okay, take 3. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday. I keep trying to make this video and I keep having to stop because my brain is not braining, and I keep having to stop because I'm not making full sentences or indeed expressing any coherent thoughts in any way. So we'll try it again. Hopefully it will work this time. I make no guarantees. I'm not sure what I was talking about. You were talking about the video call situation. Yes. That we intended. Hi, Demon Spawn. Are you coming over here? What are you looking at? I don't know. Sorry, got distracted. So, video call situation. Yes, I also intended to do, like, the next step, and then never got any farther. So, Phoebe, you said this weekend won't work for you, I remember, but I don't know, maybe we can try next weekend, or, some weekend past that. I don't know. We can hope. Also, one of my issues with not continuing the conversation is that I had shut down my laptop. I normally access Messenger through my laptop because, as we have talked about, if I can do something on my laptop instead of my phone, I do, because of the typing situation. And so I had to reboot my computer, and so I started up all of my everything again. But I opened the tab for Messenger, but apparently did not sign in to Messenger. And then I apparently never looked at that tab again. So instead of getting the notifications that I would normally get when someone posts something, it just sat there, and I just never looked at it because I'm smart, apparently. So what else? I really enjoyed your discussion of the flying, the possibilities of all the flying and the points and stuff. I also don't know if, what, if everybody's into it, or what the logistical problems would be, or whatever. But, just as a general, idea, it is very fun to think about. So, I enjoy listening to your, hypotheticals about it. What's the other thing we're going to talk about? Reading was one of the things that you were talking about in your video. Whoops, sorry. And I you were talking about the brain fog issue and stuff, from migraines and also other health things. Sorry, I keep bumping things. And yes, that is a huge issue. It also affects what kind of things I can read, because things that are more lightweight are easier for me to focus on and take in, especially on particularly bad days. The brain fog is really a massive issue for me, not just for migraines, although migraines really make it a lot worse. But just in general, the brain fog is one of the biggest issues that I have, because it's just so pervasive, and you can't really do anything else when your brain isn't working very well. So yeah, that is a lot of the reason why I don't read as much as I used to. When I was a kid, man, I would say up through, honestly, even in college, although I was a lot busier, then, and had less time for reading. But even past that, I would say up into my mid-20s, I read pretty much all the time. I was one of those people that never ever read less than a couple of books a week, and often read way more than that, 4 or 5, 6 10 books a week. Like, I just was constantly reading. That was my main thing that I did when I was, like, not in school. And then, like, I just, partly because there were other things going on and I had less time, partly because I got a lot more brain fog, just for a whole lot of reasons, I started reading less and less and less, and it really became, there was a period where, like, I really found that I did not realize what a method of coping it was for me, like, in terms of just, like, dealing with regular everyday stress. I did not realize what a powerful tool it was for me as a coping mechanism. And then I went through this phase where I basically didn't read at all, in terms of just, like, you know, reading for pleasure or, like, reading stuff I did not have to read. There was, like, a whole period of time where I basically didn't read at all, and it made me very edgy and very irritable, and I could not figure out what was wrong with me. And then I finally, like, after this had gone on for, I mean, months and months, maybe a year or two. I mean, it was a while. And I did have a lot of other stress going on during this period, so, like, that was not the only thing that was causing the issue, but, like, I just was, like, I could not deal with anything. I just was really irritable and very unable to cope with just anything. And I finally had some, like, downtime and could read, and I remember, like, picking up a book and just, like, reading as I normally would, and then kind of surfacing after a little while and being like, oh wow, I feel so much better, and then being like, oh, I see, that's an issue, like, that's a thing I need to, like, pay more attention to. And it's like, now I read some, but not a lot, not as much as I would like to. And I mean, to some extent that just has to do with my ability to concentrate. It's just not as good as it used to be, which is a problem for me for many reasons. You were talking about rereading, and, like, yeah, I'm a big rereader, as I said, but, like, I was probably, like, in my 20s before I really understood that many people do not reread things, like, at all. And not because of a lack of opportunity, like, you know, not owning the books or whatever, but, like, because they don't want to reread things. And that seems weird. That was a wild, like, brain explodey thing for me. I was like, what? How can that be? What do you mean you don't want to reread things? Because for me, it's like, it's just so natural. I had not considered the possibility of not wanting to reread things. And you were talking about how, like, you reread things so much, like comfort rereads, like, you reread them so much that you get to the point where you just know them and you can, like, sort of recite them in your head as you're going. And yes, like, I've talked before about Alice in Wonderland, and how, like, I have not read Alice in Wonderland since I was a kid. Like, I have no idea when the last time I actually read Alice in Wonderland was. But when I was a kid, from the time I was 6, when I got the copy of the book, which I know because I made my mom write the date in it. So from the time I was 6 until I was, I don't know, several years later, I basically took that book with me everywhere, because it was my, like, main comfort reread, and I was the sort of person who always had a book. And, you know, when you're a kid, like, you have a lot of waiting time because adults take you places and then you're just stuck there and you don't have anything to do. And, like, I was a kid, you know, in the pre-internet, like, smartphone era, I did not have like an iPad or anything like that. You just took a book with you everywhere you went. And so, like, when I was little, I took Alice with me everywhere because I don't know, like, I just hung on to it. It was like the book that I took everywhere. If I didn't have some other book that I specifically wanted to take, I just took Alice everywhere. And so I read it so many times that even though I have not now read it in literally decades, like I genuinely don't know when the last time I read it was. It was a long time ago. I I found an Esperanto translation of it, right? And my Esperanto is like middling. And I thought, oh, this would be a great, like, I've never read anything at novel length before. This would be a great, like, first thing to start with because I know it really well. And, I'm very familiar with the story. I'm very familiar with, like, the language of it. This would be a good, like, first long form thing to read in another language, right? So I started reading it, and what I discovered was that I could, like, recite the English text in my head as I was reading the Esperanto translation because I had read it so many times that it is still, like, deeply embedded in the cells of my brain. And, like, it's weirdly useful when you're trying to, like, read something that's in a different language that you maybe are not amazing at, to be able to just access the original text like that. I have not gotten very far because although I have theoretically been reading it for a really long time, I don't read it very often because I keep forgetting that I'm supposed to be reading it, and I started out only reading it, like, on my phone when I had to, like, wait at the vet's office or something like that, and so I didn't have to do that very often because I don't go anywhere very often, so I didn't get very far, and so I am theoretically still reading it, but it's not going anywhere really. But it is extremely useful to be able to, like, compare and contrast the two in my head. Like, especially if I come across a word I don't know, I can immediately tell what the word is, sometimes with really weird precision, just simply because I have read the original enough times that my brain just kind of knows it all. Which is weird, but good, I guess. I don't know. That is all of my notes, apparently. I thought I had more than that, but I apparently do not. Except for that I have quoted your line, "I am not approaching a teenager," which, honestly, I think sounds like probably a good idea. Dangerous. Dangerous to do that. It's probably a mean thing to say. I just, especially because, like, when I think about it, like, some of you were teenagers when I first met you, and I was, like, not upset about that. So I shouldn't be frightened of teenagers now, I guess. Maybe it's just because I'm really old now. I don't know. Or maybe it's just because they seem feral and mean now. Maybe that just has to do with the fact that I see a lot more, like, mean TikTok teenagers. Like, I don't know. They seem... Maybe it's because I don't spend as much time, like, seeing teenagers in Nerdfighteria, and Nerdfighters tend to be pretty nice and, not vicious and scary. I don't know. So anyway, this has gotten quite long. We're at approximately 15 minutes now. Probably I should stop. It's only like 10:30 though, so at least I've got some time before I like run out of day. That's something. This has been mostly complete sentences, I think. Some stammering and some trailing off, but better than the previous two attempts, so we'll just go with it. So I think I'm done. So I love you all, and I hope everybody's having a good week, and I will see you next week, I guess. So don't forget to be awesome.